bring that up. No reason to right now. But tomorrow, we've got Aeon versus Team Zenith and Miniski Power Color taking on Team DK. And Zenith and DK, of course, a couple of teams pretty sure most Dota fans, no matter where you're from, are going to at least know the name and have some interest in seeing plays. So make sure you tune in tomorrow as well. I know for this weekend at least, we're going to continue starting at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 1400 Central European Time. And next weekend we may be a little bit earlier, but either way, just keep it locked to itsgosu.com. Full schedule released usually in the middle of the week, as well as the VODs. So look forward to that heading into next week. Tong Fu taking on Myth Trust, and Myth Trust did not set their banners. I just noticed that up at the top.
Yeah, it's been unfortunate. Also, I think Mally just hates me. That's why we're actually winding the clock back an additional time for next weekend. So now I have to wake up at basically 2 a.m. to start casting. It's going to be interesting, man. I don't know if I might actually just get on and just be a zombie and just not be able to enunciate at all and just for like an hour or so.
Well,
we'll see.
I think most of the viewers would let you slide, man. I mean, dude, seriously, like it's going to be rough on me, and I got to get up at the setup. I'll have to get up about 5 in the morning. I like to get up at least 2 hours ahead. I usually prefer 3, but I mean, at 4 in the morning, if I was going to get up that early, I'd just stay up. But yeah. Dude, you're basically like, you're getting up at like dinner time. It's like you're eating dinner then going to get ready for cast, to cast more or less. So, but either way, it's noon now, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Draskell fighting back the yawns. Not for long though. Going to be another exciting game here in Monthly Madness Asia. Tong Fu and Myth Trust. Myth Trust trying to bring it back to even as Tong Fu leads 1-0 in this best of 3. Take a look at the lineups. Gonna have TNK playing our Sand King Lestrak, gonna be handled by the new player Uno who just joined. Looks like we're gonna have Abba playing our Rubik. I think, yeah, playing our Rubik. Not the second game in the row though. Triltha, or actually, see, I struggle with the names. I'm just gonna do it this way. We'll pop up the old scoreboard. It is gonna be, I guess it is gonna be the. Actually, I thought I was reading it wrong. Playing our Lone Druid. And Kay going to be playing on our Marana. And we're going to have a little bit of light harassment as Awoke takes a pot shot at the Priestess, sends her back to the safe side of the river and drops a ward while he's at it. So yeah, Awoke on our Venomancer. Kabu playing our Shadow Demon. Hal, who played Dragon Knight game number 1. Going to be playing our Chaos Knight this time around. Our Bounty Hunter going to be handled by Sanshing. And our Brewmaster, played by Moo. And everyone's still kind of hanging around here. Looks like they want to start a fight, doing a little harassment from the high ground. We'll see if they're actually going to engage. They are going to disrupt Leshrac, so there you want to go for it. Venomous Gale is going to land, but a good split Earth catches too. Now the Burrow Strike. Tong Fu is in some trouble. Follow-up stun from Marana. And Chaos Bolt gets 2 seconds off. First Blood is going to go in favor of Myth Trust. Now Chaos Knight making a run for it. And we're going to have another Burrow Strike. That's 2 kills in favor of the team from Thailand. And that is what they wanted. It's what they needed. Tong Fu were the aggressors there, trying to force the fight. And they got what they asked for, just not the outcome they wanted.
I mean, they probably could have killed the Leshrac there if they didn't all decide to stand right on top of each other against double AoE stun. I mean, that was a triple split Earth, triple Burrow Strike, arrow to the face, and the Shadow Demon. I mean, there was no way he was getting out at the very least. But then they decided to stick around a bit to try to get the Leshrac. I mean, the CK threw out another stun instead of stunning to save the Venomancer, so he ended up dying as well, and that's pretty much a free tri-lane win. I mean, when you're up against a triple stun tri-lane, and you basically have an innate hero advantage, you win. Like, you can't really lose this lane now.
100% agree. Tong Fu going to be playing uphill, at least in this lane for the moment. Leshrac making his way back down. So it is going to be tri-lane versus tri-lane with 2 solo lanes. Rubik did wind up mid. Noted the possibility that could be a reality, and sure enough, we're going to see Abba handling Rubik in mid against Moo, playing on Brewmaster. Up atop, going to have the solo lane Bounty, already licking his wounds a bit, coming out on the bad end of an engagement with Spirit Bear, taking on our Lone Druid.
I think these lanes are actually a bit interesting coming out from Myth. I think the Rubik mid is interesting because typically when you have a support Rubik, you're basically saying to yourself, we're not going to give our Rubik early levels because spell steal at a very early stage, you're not going to be able to get high-level spells, you know? You're looking at probably 2 or 3 at most on some supports, which are some of the spells you're really wanting to be stealing, and actually bottom lane looks like they're going to get another kill on Shadow Demon as well. Now Venomancer's running for it, but I don't know if he's even going to be able to get out of here.
10 seconds on the arrow, so... Oh, wow, Split Earth is going to barely catch him. Mirana trying to get on top of him. 5 seconds on the arrow. Let's see. I don't think it's going to matter. They're going to get him anyway with the Burrow Strike. Oh, no, not enough mana. Nope, never mind. And the Split Earth would have landed anyway. Not enough mana for the Burrow Strike, but either way. 4-0 now, favoring Myth Trust. And as good as Tong Fu looked in game number 1, Myth Trust is looking that good here in the first 3 minutes.
It's just a really overcommitment to trying to get that first blood, man. I mean, if Tong Fu loses this game, they can pretty much just chalk it up to, yep, our trial lane just failed miserably. That's pretty much what ended up happening, because right now both the supports are 0 and 2. On the bright side, CK hasn't died yet, but he has 7 CS at 3 minutes. That's really not great by any means, and he's not going to be able to farm at all in this lane anymore. The lane is just way too far behind at this point.
Yeah. It's looking good for Myth Trust. We'll see how it plays out, though. In the meantime, Brewmaster doing his business against Rubik in mid. It's 12-16. Rubik's actually getting the better of this. Would have thought it would have been the other way around, but Rubik just played very, very well. And now even harassing Brew completely out of the river. Yeah, Myth Trust just firing on all cylinders right now. And in theory, this bottom tri-lane out of Tong Fu should be extremely vicious, but when you just get behind this badly early on, all of a sudden you're just kind of impotent down here.
Well, the Shadow Demon was a really solid pick, except if he gets picked off again here on the side. He does have Disruption, though.
No.
Not even going to get to use it.
Yeah, doesn't matter. Just so many stuns. And it's really just brilliant lane choice here for Myth Trust. You've got 3 stuns that all work in conjunction with each other. The Burrow Strike can follow up or it can lead, and now we're going to have Rubik just kind of laying in the Brew, and just look at the blocking going on. Just not letting him pass. Just look at this. Beautiful control and micro there out of Rubik. And yeah, just gonna get a kill just cause he's Rubik. Holy crap.
Myth Trust does not seem like the same team that we saw in the previous game. Maybe they were just saving this particular strategy for a rainy day. I mean, again, the bottom lane did kind of play into their hands a bit with that just really awkward engagement coming out from Tong Fu. And right now, man, 6-0 at 4 minutes. I think that Myth Trust is going to go ahead and take that and be pretty happy with it.
Yeah, that's just some next level micro out of old Rubik here. I mean, just handling his hero perfectly. Had the right rune as well. It's bad news, man. It's bad news for Tong Fu. And Tong Fu, I mean, let's be honest. We're casters, so we usually want to stay kind. I don't feel bad saying it now that Myth Trust is up 6-0. Myth Trust got rolled game 1, man. Just rolled. And, yeah, they're really on a roll. I mean, I'm just blown away at what's happening right now. It is like watching 2 totally different teams this time around.
Totally agree, and the fact that Shang Top is actually he's having like a really hard time here because the Lone Druid actually bought Sentry, so he's just sending the bear at him over and over again.
Yep.
It's 29 and 11 CS right now to Shang, who's sitting at 11 and 1. So he's got basically nothing. Same can be said for CK. All of Tong Fu's lanes are losing. All of them.
Yep. That's usually going to be pretty problematic. I mean, it's just, again, there's only so much you can harp on it. Myth Trust looks good. And as of right now, and it's completely in Myth Trust control where this game goes. Like, Tong Fu cannot afford to just try and pour on aggression or pick a kill off. Like, unless Myth Trust just gets so utterly overconfident that their heroes get isolated in 1-on-2s and 1-on-3s, there's just nothing that can be done. Now we are going to have a bit of an engagement here in mid. We see the disruption was stolen by Rubik, bought him some time to get back to safety after disrupting the Brewmaster. And yeah, all Bounty Hunter can do is just leave empty-handed. He does have a haste rune, so we'll see. Oh wow, Lone Druid is a little low. Spirit Bear brought back. He's just going to get a kill. This is a perfect example of right place at the right time. Oh wow, summons the bear back, but the haste rune just too much. Oh, got the root off at the last minute, but just a day late and a dollar short in keeping his master alive. Finally, we see Tong Fu get on the board, but, I mean, that was just kind of a luck kill, man.
It was. I mean, it was definitely a situation like you said. He just was very, very fortunate that he happened to have a haste right there. Otherwise, there's no way he would have been able to kill that Lone Druid ever. But that helps him out a lot, man. Now he's got track. That's going to make it so if they ever want to try to play aggressive in another lane, they can. The only problem is, I mean, the supports in his tri-lane are both level 4 halfway to level 5. And then you have level 3 on your Shadow Demon and your Venomancer. I mean, Tongfu's doing a decent job of not dying again, and I mean, when you say that, it's like, okay, well, how good of a position is Tongfu really? And if all you can say is they're not dying still.
Right.
I mean, at the end of the day, Shadow Demon can never, ever, ever get caught. If he gets caught, then Tongfu can't fight, because he's the only person who can stop and turn around their aggression by disrupting one of his own teammates. That's what we saw bottom when he got picked off again. I mean, right now he's 0-3-0, and I mean, yeah, CK hasn't died, but he's also not getting any farm either.
Yep. He's sitting on branches and boots, basically. Never a situation you want to be in when you're supposed to be getting farm and you're hanging out in a tri-lane. And yeah, I mean, 12 CS. Same as Bounty Hunter. Bounty Hunter's in a long lane. 38, 34, 36 from Mirana, Druid, and Rubik. That is sick farm. Sick farm. If you take Brewmaster out of it, that's 3 heroes who have more farm than 4 players on Tongfu, including CK combined. It's bad news, man. It's... Again, it's so early that you can't just say, well, obviously this is how this is going to play out, and this is obviously what Tongfu can and can't do to get back into this and what have you. Just can't say that this early. But I can tell you right now it's going to require a mistake. Like, if they want to get back into this, it's going to take a mistake on MITH Trust's part.
It's going to take more than one.
Yeah.
It's not. It's going to take like 2 or 3 probably, just like we saw in the beginning couple of fights out of Tongfu. Man, I'm really surprised that they ended up getting this far behind this quickly. It doesn't really seem like them. They're typically a very, very tight team. They don't make mistakes like that. Like, they don't try to engage into double stun, and we might see Venomancer. Oh, never mind. Okay, he's going to live because of the range creep. There was no arrow coming out from the Mirana. I was like, okay, he's not going to die this time. And Shadow Demon wasn't the one to get caught either, and that's why they just didn't even go for it. Like I said, if Shadow Demon isn't the one who gets caught, they can still kind of try to turn it around.
Right. Well, the Shrek and Sand King being very aggressive. Bounty Hunters here, though. We're going to see. Oh, here we go. Burrow Strike. Going to catch Tube. Follow-up arrow. Going to catch CK. There's the disruption, finally. MITH Trust, though. I mean, they're taking damage, but are they taking it fast enough? We're going to see Leshrac heal himself up. Burrow Strike on Veno, going to keep him in place for the moment. Mirana just continues to do damage from the side. CK does drop in exchange for Leshrac. And now Brewmaster joins the fight. Mirana in a bit of trouble. There we go. She's down. Sand King going to be disrupted. This is what Tongfu needs. Burrow Strike buys him a little bit of time. Tracks up, though. Going to go into the Sandstorm one more time. Last clap. Locks him down. And there's, it's going to take more than one, so said Draskell, so agreed AC. There's one.
Yep, there's one. That's going to help them actually quite a bit. Even though top lane was being pressured pretty heavily by this lone druid the whole time, they're still going to get a tower out of it, actually. So, I mean, the Fortify was already used. No TPs yet coming out from Tongfu. This is basically a free tower. The one thing about that team fight, too, I really want to stress, like, Shadow Demon banished himself over his CK, and the CK died.
Yeah.
You can't do that. You can't save yourself over your carry, especially considering the fact that your CK, up to this point, has basically gotten no farm whatsoever.
Yeah.
Sure, he hasn't died, but man, save your freaking CK. He died without using an ability. I mean, even the second disruption, you want to try to use the argument that, okay, well, they killed the Sand King because of the Shadow Demon. That's actually not true. There's a Shuriken in midair. He stopped the damage from going off on that Shuriken by that disruption as well, which would have killed the Sand King anyway. So just overall, I think that was a very, very sloppy performance out of Kabu. Hopefully he can try to make up for it next time.
Absolutely. Very well stated, very well observed, my friend. MITH Trust obviously knows, okay, we just gave back a little bit of our lead, but we're still pretty far ahead. How about we go ahead and take 2 heroes that can do a lot of damage, have a couple of stuns, smoke them up, and go looking for trouble. Oh, wow, Brewmaster. The wrong part of town. Doesn't matter, though. Tongfu has reinforcements. Rubik in trouble. Off goes the Venomous Gale. Brewmaster blows the ulti. Rubik making a run for it. Not going to make it to safety. Sand King's there. Leshrac hits the Split Earth. Sand King stays in the Sandstorm for the moment. Back down in the river. We're going to see Leshrac get caught. Tossed up in the air by the Storm aspect. Blows his wand. Gets himself back into fighting shape. Double damage rune is there, however, on Brewmaster. He's going to get the kill with the clap. CK forced to bail out and head south. Now, MITH Trust back on the warpath, but the gap has narrowed again. 6-8 now that the dust has settled. So even though, obviously, it didn't go as well as Tongfu would have hoped, they are gaining ground. And it's just, I mean, that's another engagement where it was just an unfortunately timed smoke up, and they got there just a little bit too late. If they had gotten there just a little bit earlier, they may have come out a little bit better.
Well, probably, but let's also keep in mind here for a second that, yeah, they won a couple of team fights and they got some experience to go a lot of it, but they're not really pushing yet.
Yeah.
I mean, they haven't gotten a tower, so that's a huge deal. Once you start seeing the towers die, then that's when Tonku's actually going to be able to make their way back into this game in a big way. They do have a bounty, though, so any kill is going to be much more effective than just, a regular kill that we saw out of MITH Trust last game. Just hopefully they can kind of keep this up and try to get something out of it in the next couple of team fights.
I want to point out, by the way, second game in a row, we've got a lone druid who's opted for Midas. This did not work out last time we saw it. Yep, Rubik's in some trouble. He's going to be caught by a 4-second Chaos Bolt, more than enough to get that kill. And this is what Tomfu needs to do. This is what their team excels at, especially with the Bounty Hunter there, to allow them to begin to gain even more ground than they would otherwise through picking off heroes with those kills. But yeah, I'm a little baffled by the Lone Druid choice for Midas again. Tongfu's lineup and the position they played themselves into dictates that they just run around, be aggressive, use Bounty Hunter to pick heroes off, get kills, and make up some ground with track. And yeah, second game in a row, man. We've got Midas on Druid, and Bounty Hunter's going to be active.
Well, there's two ways to look at it. In the first game, I think the Midas was pretty much just a kind of a silly idea, but in this game, when you're that far ahead that fast, especially because the Lone Druid was absolutely crushing his lane, I can see the reason why you would buy a Midas, because typically that's an item to enhance your start rather than to just try to recover. A Midas is not something that you buy if you're like, oh crap, I'm behind, I'm going to get a Midas. That's not what you do. I mean, in this game, I think it's more understandable, especially considering that they have 3 heroes who can fight without the Lone Druid. They don't have to rely on him to be there. I think that basically at this stage in the game, MITH Trust still has a lot of momentum. They have still a very significant gold lead.
What amazing, amazing game sense. Threw the dust out at just the right time as Bounty Hunter was exiting the shop, and they're going to get a kill because of it. They were smoked up. Hang on. CK's there. Is going to land a 3-second Chaos Bolt. Oh, Bruise there as well. Burrow Strike. Does catch one, but looks like he's going to pay the price. And yeah, there's the disruption. And yeah, they're going to pick him off. 10-9 now. Still favoring MITH Trust, but that 6-kill lead at one point has narrowed considerably. And back to the choice for Midas. I think it's a risk-reward situation. It all depends on how you want to look at it, as you said. If you're ahead, work on getting more ahead. Absolutely, I agree with that. But sometimes getting more ahead just means proceeding as planned and getting up a decent relic to go ahead and have control when you should have control. We'll see if Midas ends up working out for them, but could go either way for sure, as we saw in game number 1. Tongfu, though, I mean, they're really playing the role that we saw in our first series. They're playing well from behind. I mean, they're certainly not back in this. They're way behind still yet, but they are doing an okay job given how bad a start they had.
Yeah, they're not doing too badly. It's just the problem right now is that the lanes lost so badly. It wasn't just kills that was the problem. It was the fact that everyone was getting heavily out CS, and it's pretty much still the same. I mean, the highest CS right now on MITH Trust is 85 on Lone Druid. Highest CS coming out of Tongfu is 46. So just, giving you an example, 10 CS is basically tower kill gold for 1 hero, right? So with that in mind, actually no, it's more than that, I'm sorry. It's actually more like 5 CS. But with that in mind, that's just basically where all the gold difference has been so far. There's only 2 towers, so the rest of that gold is completely made up of the fact that they have those 2 towers and just creep kills only. I mean, it's some kills, but mostly it's just the fact that all the lanes were just flat out winning. It wasn't just that they were getting kills either.
Tongfu wants to do some damage. There we go. There's the blink in. Brew with the blink complete. Track does go off. The cloak was on Rubik, by the way. He had stolen the Bounty Hunter ability Shadow Walk. But, yeah, unfortunately, unable to get to safety. That's going to make it 10-10, and for the first time since it was 0-0, we're all knotted up in kills. Gold still 100% in favor of MITH Trust, but at least Tongfu is beginning to give as good as they take. And they've got a team that's going to be able to move around the map very easily, especially now with the Blink Dagger done. MITH Trust, though, has got a pretty good team for getting kills, too, as we see Sand King get another kill on Venomancer.
Their supports are just so freaking farmed at this point, man. I mean, to be totally honest with you, TF has done a great job of keeping their supports in the game. I'm not even quite sure how Venomancer is the same level as the Sand King and the Leshrac. The kills are about even, so if you want to use it that way, you can definitely explain it and say, yeah, well, obviously they've been in the same amount of team fights, but more action mid.
And here comes Brewmaster, getting that Blink Dagger up this early. Really, really making a difference now. Leshrac being pounded on is going to land a Split Earth. In the meantime, the rest of Myth Trust making a run for the towers. Leshrac is going to drop on the top side. Sand King is yet to land. Finally comes back down to Earth. Going to Burrow Strike now. Tong Fu taking a lot of damage. Brewmaster's ult wears off, and he is surrounded, and Rubik has an ult of his own. Going to use the stone to secure the kill. 13-11. Myth Trust takes a win and conveniently finishes up that team fight near Roche. Figure, hey, what the hell? We killed a few people. Let's go ahead and kill the big guy, too.
I think that it's quickly becoming a game that Tong Fu is not going to be able to come back from. I mean, yeah, they're getting kills. Yeah, they're getting some experience. But at the end of the day, when you're this far behind in gold and it's only 17 minutes in, we're getting close to about the 10K mark. And after Roche, it's probably going to be just about that after that team fight win update as well. I don't know, man. Like, just... if the Tri-Link didn't lose so badly and Top didn't lose so badly, they might have had some way to kind of come back into this game and get rid of the advantage. But there's just so many items up so fast on Myth Trust that every time they lose a team fight, it's like TF gets away with basically no HP. Tong Fu's like, okay, well, we just barely won that fight. We can't possibly push because everybody else on their team just has so many items that it takes a lot for us to win the fight. I don't know. It's a really tough position to fight out of for Tong Fu.
I very much agree. One of their saving graces, really. I mean... when you got Brewmaster and you've got CK, you're going to be able to hold the line fairly well once you get pushed hard enough. Myth Trust, though, in pushing, is going to be able to extend their lead very, very far until they hit that Tier 3 line. Hang on. Blink on to Mirana. Tracks up as well. They're just going to go ahead and use that basically as harassment. Arrow is going to split the wickets there between Awoke and Moo. But... yeah, I mean, they've got a team that can do okay holding the line, so to speak, but you've got a ticking time bomb. Two of them, really, if you want to be honest, on the side of Myth Trust and Mirana and Lone Druid. You just can't let them sit back and farm. You can't let them push towers, take tower gold. It's not something you have the convenience of doing anymore. And outside of just going nuts and hoping you get about 15 kills in about 15 minutes, all with track, it's going to be a long road if Tong Fu wants to get back into this. And it's Myth Trust's game to win or lose, pretty much.
I think once Bounty Hunter gets a little too tracked, they could try to start skirmishing again and try to come out on the actual better end of these team fights, but man, it's just going to be so difficult. The Sand King's going to have his Blink and 500 gold. Leshrac's got some pretty decent farm too, but he's been supporting basically, so he doesn't have too much to speak of. But just in general, everyone on Myth Trust has a lot. I mean, not to mention the Lone Druid has his Relic up now on top of his Midas, so now basically the Midas choice is just icing on the cake at this point because his Relic is still fast considering he bought a Midas in itself, but if he didn't have it, he would have already had his Radiance at 20 minutes, but that doesn't really matter because as time goes on, once again, the Midas is going to pay for itself. And now you have Tong Fu, who doesn't have the best late-game team in the world. I mean, yeah, they have CK and Panda, who are pretty decent, but Lone Druid is going to pretty much trump that with the amount of farm that he has, and now they basically have a window where if they don't win, then they're just not going to win.
Yep. Very much agree. They don't really have the convenience of trying to let the game come to them, so to speak, anymore. They have to try and do something on their own. It's going to take at least one gigantic. When I say gigantic, I mean, 3-for-0 trade in their favor of a team fight. They got to start taking towers. They need to get some map control. They need to shut down this Druid, who's going to have his Relic up in very short order. Mirana still has her Aegis, aggressively pressuring this bottom tower, looking to force a reaction. We do see Shadow Demon making his way down there now. And San Sheng thought about it, now doubling back. And it looks like they can't really make up their mind where they want to push. Do they want to push or do they want to react? Brewmaster is going to come out on Mirana, and Mirana just wants to engage. Has the luxury of just trading blow for blow and coming out ahead. In the meantime, mid tower, going to begin taking some damage. Tong Fu does get a toe hold up on the high ground coming out of the river. And Myth Trust wisely pulls back, I think. I think this is a tower they can afford to lose, and it's no big deal. Instead of trying to fight in an awkward position where not everyone is accounted for.
It's the right choice to make for sure. No reason to fight when your Sand King is this close to Blink, and he's only 300 gold away, so once he gets that, they'll be in a much more dominant position. They could still choose to fight, though. Actually, wow, Panda's going to go in.
Here we go, going to pop the ulti. He's got the lockdown on Leshrac. Leshrac going to drop pretty quickly. Chaos Bolt a bit wasted there. And now off goes the Phantasm. Going to have the Reality Rift as well. Tong Fu able to force Myth Trust back, and they're going to catch up with Rubik. He's going to drop. That's 2-for-0. And now they're going to take a second tower. That's what Tong Fu needed. Now, Druid was not part of this battle at all. In fact, now Myth Trust coming out, firing. They do get the tower. Sand King in the sandstorm, keeps himself safe for the moment. Druid has made his way back through the jungle, joining up with his teammates to maybe try and pick one person off during the retreat. Not going to be the case. Mirana arrow off the mark. But yeah, I mean, not bad at all out of Tong Fu. That's the kind of thing they need to do. But again, I think you really hit the nail on the head in that, okay, that's great. They took 2 towers. They had a minor win there. And that was actually one of the bigger wins they've had just because they did get a tower out of it. Or an extra.
That was a pretty big win for them, actually.
Yeah, but at the same time, they got to do that a lot more. They can't let the game slip away from them. They're kind of on a timer here. Blink Dagger's now done on that Sand King. And Lone Druid just continues to farm away like crazy.
Yeah, if the Lone Druid had been there, that fight would have been just a massacre in favor of Myth Trust. I mean, you saw how low all the heroes were, and that was a 4v5 especially, so given the fact that he's there in the next team fight, I don't think that it's going to have quite the same level of, oh wow, Tong Fu is actually kind of still in this, because looking at the gold, it is swinging slightly back in favor of Tong Fu for the moment, but it was over 10,000 in Myth Trust's favor, and they got like a little bit of a tiny swing out of that. It just goes to show how far behind they really are at this point, and I mean, that was mistake number 2, but they're still going to need more than that.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know how else to say it.
Very much agree. We got a gang of 3 rolling through the Radiant side jungle. Leshrac, Sand King, and Rubik looking for trouble. Not going to find it unless they decide to cross over the mid lane. And they're just going to kind of run in circles, kill a Vino Ward, sure, why not? There's the immediate ping saying, hey, know where those guys are now. Tong Fu, for the most part, actually, in toto, now gathering around this Tier 1 top tower. Here come the reactions. They know where they're heading. Sand King's going to be in a beautiful position here. Druid's already there as well. Sand King is channeling. Here he comes. There's the blink. He's going to catch at least 2 burrow strikes. And yeah, that's a lot of damage done. Mex goes off, though, gets him back in fighting shape, but that health melts just almost immediately. Tong Fu completely on the run at this point. And yeah, CK drops. Off goes the dust. They're being just chased at this point. They're just being run down like animals. That's another death. Awoke. Turns, and, you know, Mirana in a little bit of trouble. Another burrow strike. Oh, going to catch them both. That's going to be pretty big kill, or pretty big turn there. That's 4, and the blink barely going to get Brewmaster to safety. But yeah, this game is officially out of control.
It's been out of control for a while. It's just that Tong Fu has had some glimpses of, yeah, we can still win a couple of team fights here and there, but in reality the momentum has pretty much always been in Myth Trust's favor this game.
Oh, yeah.
It's very misleading to look at the scoreboard in games like this because you're like, oh man, this game is actually pretty close. In reality, it's not close. It's just the fact that every time that Tong Fu managed to have a favorable engagement, it was because either not everyone was there or somebody was horrendously out of position on Myth Trust. Those are pretty much the only 2 times where they ever showed that they could even take a fight, and even those fights themselves, they get out of those fights with like no life at all.
Yeah.
Especially mid, that was a perfect example. I mean, they were missing their best hero at this point, which is going to be Lone Druid, who has his Radiance up, and another 2k gold, and honestly, like, I don't see how Tong Fu can come back from this.
Yeah, I don't either. It's, well, I mean, if you give up first blood and 2 more kills in the very first engagement in a tri-lane, yeah, it's, you're going to have a bad time, man. It's, you can understand them hanging around, wanting to try and elongate this game as long as they can, trying to increase their odds of coming back, but the potential really just isn't there. I mean, you look at the experience, 12,000 experience gap at this point, 14,000 gold now that it's updated. Just way out of reach.
I don't know, like, this game really felt like Tong Fu still had a really, really strong lineup. It's just really unfortunate that bottom line happened the way it did. Like, twice in a row, they ended up losing both of their supports pretty much just straight away. Then the one team fight, they finally managed to turn it around. Kabu doesn't save his CK, and they just get a little bit less than what they should have gotten out of the team fight in general. I mean, Mirana just had a ball bottom lane. I mean, she's sitting at 145 CS, 7-1. It's only 26 minutes in. Link ends Yasha, and actually almost an entire Manta, actually, after that creep wave, so just in general, Myth Trust playing a completely different game of Dota and looked fan-freaking-tastic in Game 2.
Yeah, for real. They it's like night and day. Anyway, I mean, we'll take a look again. There's only so much you can talk about. The game's really in their favor. Farm continues, and it's really just on them. Ghost Scepter's now up on Leshrac. That's all well and good. Mirana's got a Yasha and a Linken's. Linken's been done for quite some time.
Is under attack.
You know, at this point, I hate to say it, you just want them to push and end it so we can move on to Game 3, because there's just not a whole lot to talk about. And Tongfu, I mean, their thought process was fine. What they wanted to do, fine. Their plan, their picking, their banning, fine. They just were unable to execute. And you, like you said, you lose a tri-lane versus tri-lane that badly, this is the result.
Dire's top tower.
Pretty much, and that's a risk, man. That's a huge risk. Whenever you're in a tri versus tri situation and your tri lane loses that badly, like, just really, really hard to come back from that in general. And that's even if your other lanes are doing okay, which wasn't even the case for Tongfu. All of their lanes were losing.
Well, they are moving around a bit. We see the teams kind of coming together a bit near mid. Looks like Tongfu is expecting a push. Setting up shop and counter-warding a smidge. Trying to get themselves in a decent position to pick anything off, just to get anything going in their favor. Roche is up once again. And yeah, this is just very passive Dota right now. Both teams very aware of the reality of the situation. MITH Trust in a nigh insurmountable situation. DD picked up by CK. He's going to go ahead and take that and run. And this might be what decides it. MITH Trust really has no reason not to go for Roche. I mean, they don't just want to give away a team fight. Hang on, Bounty Hunter in some trouble. Going to be disrupted. In comes Brewmaster. Bounty is going to make it away. Vino pops the ulti as well, so we're going to see Sand King drop pretty quickly. And now, CK, even with the DD, just having trouble staying alive. Mirana making a run for it as well. MITH Trust did lose one. They lost their Sand King. Split Earth off the mark. Oh, wow, they're going to lose another. Rubik's going to drop. Lone Druid is going to make it back to safety, but signs of life, my friend. Tongfu has a pulse after all. Managed to pick off a couple due to a smidge of an overextension out of MITH Trust. Now they're going to try and take Roche.
I mean, I want to say that they can come back, man. I really do. I want to say, you know what, man, Tongfu's coming back in the game. They just picked off 2 heroes, going to get Roche. That's great for them, and it is great.
Yep.
But they're so far behind. Like, I mean, Mirana's going to come in here 1v4 and just not even really care what happens.
Yeah, just going to leap away. See, they stuck the Aegis, so I'm going to guess CK, obviously. The choice. And yeah, I mean, I'm like you, man. I want exciting Dota. I want to see exciting games, but Tongfu, maybe. Maybe they're just the chosen ones. Maybe, I mean, I watched that fight play out there. And it just kind of, that was one of those fights where Tongfu just kind of won, and you can't point to any particular thing, go, oh, well, obviously they won. It was just a little bit of an overextension from MITH. They got split up. The spells were off the mark. You saw a couple of missplitters. It just didn't go well. And Tongfu able to 100% capitalize on it. And, yeah, I mean, the gold graph's going to update. Another good indication. It's like, oh, it's almost back to 10,000 gold differential. After a big win, it's almost back to 10,000 gold. That's where Tongfu stands.
Right, and I mean, that was a huge turnaround. I mean, in most games, that would be a turnaround where you're like, oh, wow, game on, you know, like, this is going to be really, really close from here on out. But it's just, God, the lead that MITH Trust has, if they manage to squander this lead, I will probably just uninstall Dota 2.
Just done.
I mean,
done.
Just, yep, I'm not even going to mess with it anymore, because they have a team where basically their late game is going to essentially be better just by virtue of how good of a start they had. I mean, their Lone Druid had free farm. He's just basically been doing whatever he wants the entire game. 200 CS right now. He's actually only 0-1, but he has 6 assists, and obviously he has all that extra gold from the towers and whatnot, but I just don't see it, man. I really don't see how Tongfu can win this, and I'm going to keep saying it until I'm proven wrong, and then when I am proven wrong, because, you know, it's going to be one of those games where you're like, oh my god, really this happened?
Yep.
Like, really? But I don't know. I'm not going to count Tongfu 100% out, but I really don't know what they're going to do.
No, I agree. 100% Mirana. Barely able to escape the wrath of Tongfu there. Going to land an arrow on our CK. Buying a little time for the team to react as Tongfu comes charging vehemently and with much vim and vigor up top lane once again. Mirana is there. Now they still have the Aegis. Lone Druid is there as well. Bear charges in. And gonna go ahead and engage. In comes Sand King. He's got the Epi going off, doing a lot of damage. Brewmaster manages to get off the ulti though. 4-second Chaos Bolt. Gonna lock Leshrac down. This is where Tong Fu's gonna have to win if they want to have any hope of hanging in this game. Mirana pops the ulti. And Leshrac doing good damage, but drops as soon as he's spotted. On the backside, 2 for 1. Now the trade. Brewmaster's ulti does wear off. They do get the tower. Off goes the smoke. Bounty Hunter trying to make a run for it. Mirana arrow doesn't matter. Mirana does get the kill. The Bounty Hunter with a, or excuse me, Mirana with a triple kill. After all that, and CK gonna have to turn and run from Rubik. Not often you get to say those words.
Yeah, he managed to keep his Aegis though, which is definitely good for Tong Fu.
Yep.
The thing about it is, I mean, the longer the game goes, the more fights you have with track. If you can manage to get some kills, that's going to help Tong Fu out. They did manage to get a tower too, which is a pretty good thing. But now we can see that the lone Druid is pretty much just going to push into top lane, and I don't know what they're going to really be able to do about this.
Speaking of that Aegis, don't know it's going to be around too much longer, and he is going to be picked off. Brew goes in. He's going to be locked in place for quite a while. The ulti's not up. CK does get back up off the Aegis, but yeah, it's going to cost Brewmaster his life. So he drops. 21-16 now. Up on the top side. Rax and tower already down. In comes Mirana coming through the base of the enemy. This doesn't matter. This is what we've been waiting on. Myth Trust to really just kind of pushing in this. And now they're taking some pretty solid damage, though. Yeah, a little overextension. They're going to pay a couple of kills back. Tong Fu back on the warpath. 23-19. Gold has leveled out right around 10,000. So Tong Fu not done yet, but with the loss of a melee Rax and a tower, still not looking too pretty.
Yeah, not looking so good. I mean, they're still kind of fighting it out, which is surprising. They're managing to get kills. A lot of it has to be attributed to the Shadow Demon too. I mean, he didn't actually go for the max Soul Catcher build. He only went 2 points in. Typically you max it and then you go for the maxed out Shadow Poison instead, but he's just going for max Disruption, so he wants max extra damage on those illusions in the duration as well, so I'm not really sure why he did that necessarily, because no one on the other team even has a BKB, so it's not really like he has to worry about that necessarily. But in general, I mean, they can still get kills. It's just a matter of, you know, how long is it going to be before the dam eventually just breaks and Myth Trust just walks into your base and just kills you. I mean, the gold is kind of hovering at about 10,000 right now, which is actually a bit surprising. But then again, track gold, I mean, we've seen how powerful that can be. But I just really don't feel like it's going to be enough.
No, I agree. It's tough, man. It's tough. And Myth Trust continues to play pretty solidly. Slight overextension down in the base of Tong Fu. Cost them a couple of extra kills, but really, I mean, you've got the Demon Edge already up on Mirana. That's going to take her damage to where it needs to be. More than 200 a shot now. Manta style up as well, working towards her MKB. And, let's see, oh wow. They're just going to get 2 free kills. They just wandered into the right place at the right time. Tong Fu is going to lose at least CK. Bounty Hunter making a run for it. Let's see, he's had to blow BKB to get to safety. Now the Mex is there as well. Now we're going to have Brewmaster engage in, gets the clap off, does go ahead and blow the ulti as well. Mirana uses her ulti in return, and Brew trying to make a run for it. Myth just sticking right with it. Earth, Wind, and Fire. That's the order in which he snaps back, depending on which aspects are alive. And there we go. Snaps back to life. Not going to be breathing for long. Down he goes. 19-25. Myth Trust still 100% in control of this game. Tong Fu not willing to give up the ghost, but they're just probably going to run out of buildings before too long.
Yeah, I mean, the Launcher is just way too far at this point. He's got his bear pretty much decked out at this point, and they're going to try to fight it off, but they're probably going to lose on their melee racks here.
Yeah, I mean, you see spells going off, stuns hitting, what have you. It just really doesn't matter. There's just too much health, too many items, too much experience on the side of Myth Trust right now. Rotating towards mid, and we're going to see Mirana actually picked off. Split Earth does land. Oh, wow. Nah, there's no way. Yeah, she is going to drop. I was going to say there's just no way she makes her way there. And yeah, we just see they're just going all in on the racks now. And that's fine. They're so far ahead they can afford to do this. Just doesn't much matter. Ghost Scepter used. Going to keep Rubik alive for the moment. Hey, it's going to be picked off, though. Good Split Earth. There's a gem on the ground. Yep, gonna go ahead and pick that up as well. Buybacks coming out on both sides. And Tong Fu charging back out, but the damage has been done. I mean, you lost another set of racks. We're still at 36 minutes in. There's a clap. And Moon not afraid at all to engage in just about any situation, trying to help his teammates out. But, again, too little, too late, really. And, yeah, down goes CK. They're going to trade Mirana for him, though. 24-27. Tong Fu is narrowing the kill lead, but... well, I don't know. Myth just keeps running in. One at a time, really. So, I'm not sure what they're doing. I mean, I understand trying to get kills in the buybacks and what have you, but they've now fed about 3 or 4 kills that were just completely unnecessary.
Yeah, I mean, they're playing a little bit over-aggressive, and it just in general, like, Tong Fu has been on the back foot since the word go in this game, and that's something that, especially with their lineup, like, the other games where we've seen Bounty Hunter, they have a lot to really help him set up kills, whereas in this game, they have basically one stun, and that's it. And then you're looking at the lineup on a Myth Trust, and they have a Leshrac stun, and they have a Sand King stun arrow to follow that up, and obviously Baron Tangle, which, last time I checked, and yeah, there it goes again on Shang. He's going to have to BKB out of it, just as I mentioned. He's not even going to live through it, so yeah, it's going to be Megas right here. But I really didn't think that there was much that Tong Fu could do after all 3 other lanes lost. Like, Track Gold's only going to give you so much.
Yep.
And in order to even have Track be effective, you have to win your team fights
Right.
to begin with.
At least
So,
break
I
even,
think-
man.
Yeah, I think that Tong Fu did actually stay in this game quite a bit longer than I think most people thought they would, so credit to them for that, but just lost the early game way too hard to come back.
Yep. You can point to one defining moment. Over-aggression early on, really wanting to get first blood. Instead, they gave 3 kills away pretty much within the first 60 seconds. And yeah, it's been all Myth Trust the last 38 minutes, give or take.
Radiant's middle tower
Continuing to
has
just pour it on, really. Padding the stats a smidge. It's okay, they earned it. Creeps will eventually bring down the Ancient. Yeah, it's...
middle tower has fallen.
Again, it's amazing to me how different both of these teams have looked.
Dire
Game number 1, it was all Tong Fu, just like it was all Myth Trust this time around. Just goes to show how high the level of play is here when one team can just dominate the other in differing games that have just such a different feel all around. Gonna have to give the MVP most likely to Rubik once again. I feel like Rubik was all over the place. He was where he needed to be. Sand King played very well too. Really didn't miss any burrow strikes or epicenters.
I think the supports really did their job this game. That's going to be it for me. I think the Sand King and Leshrac played a great game, and their coordination bottom lane pretty much has solidified them a pretty much free lane win. And obviously, it was nice of the Lone Druid to buy those sentries early top to make sure that they could get the Bounty Hunter out of the lane and not really get any farm whatsoever. And moral of the story is, if you lose all 3 lanes, it's going to be hard to win a game of Dota.
Kinda tough. We got Game 3 on the way, folks. Myth Trust taking on Tong Fu, going the distance. We'll see which team's up to the task and which team has the ability to advance to the round of 8. I'm EC, that's Draskell. This is Monthly Madness Asia. Stick with us.